As we grow older, we tend to get caught up in grown-up things such as working, paying taxes, etc. However, we all have an inner child that's constantly looking for fun. By introducing the Marlin Snoopy edition, Timex tries to please both the grown-up and the inner child in you. The Flying Ace Marlin is classy, but the Snoopy drawing is there to remind you not to take yourself too seriously. As always, let's start off by looking at the measurements of this watch. The 40mm case is a bit bigger than what I'm used to from dress watches. You can see it here on my 6.25-inch wrist. It looks a bit big. It's not that bad obviously, but for my wrist size, I usually try to stay within the 36 to 38mm case range for my dress watches. So I would have preferred if it was a bit smaller, but for you guys with bigger wrists, let's say 6.75 inches and above, it will look absolutely amazing. Conversely, if you guys have smaller wrists than me, let's say 6 inches or below, then definitely steer clear from this Timex Marlin because it will look too big on your wrist. The bright side is that Timex also sells a 34mm Marlin, but unfortunately it isn't available with the Snoopy the Snoopy design. So if you have smaller wrists, maybe look at the 34mm one. If you absolutely want the Snoopy design, get this one, but know that it wears a bit large. And now it is also quite a thick watch because you have an acrylic domed crystal which takes up a lot of space. It also has an exhibition case back which also adds a bit of thickness, but the thickness mainly comes from this very largely domed acrylic crystal here. As you probably know, acrylic is quite easy to scratch, so if you're hoping to have a flawless looking dress watch, maybe think twice because this crystal, if you're not very careful about it, will get scratched pretty easily. But these scratches can always be buffed out with a little bit of a poly watch or something like that, so it's not the end of the world, but know that it won't look flawless for too long. So now that does it for the size. Before I get into the specs, I just want to talk a bit about collectibility of this watch because this used to be a very collectible Timex because it was produced in small amounts. But this one I got part of the May 26th drop, which still hasn't sold out. So we're on June 11th now, so almost 3 weeks since it dropped and it still hasn't sold out. So this means one of two things. Either they made way too many or the demand just isn't there anymore. Now we can talk more about the specs, and the first thing I want to talk about is definitely the mechanical movement because this is something pretty impressive for Timex watch. If you don't know, the Timex has been on a 35-year hiatus from mechanical movements between 1982 to 2017. So all they produced during those 35 years were quartz powered watches. So it's kind of refreshing to see a Timex with a mechanical movement. Of course, it wouldn't make too much financial sense for Timex to create their own in-house mechanical movements because 95% of their watches are still quartz powered. So they use a Japanese Miyota 8215 movement, which you can see here through the exhibition case back. If you're not familiar with it, this is a ubiquitous movement that is found on a plethora of different affordable watches. So it is a workhorse movement, very reliable. It's been used for decades now, so it has been tested and proven. It is not the most accurate movement out there. I think the stated accuracy is -20 to +40 seconds per day. So it isn't that accurate, but the reliability largely makes up for it. So And the accuracy is plenty for everyday use. I've never had any problem with timekeeping on this watch. As far as the spec goes, it is pretty basic. So you get 21 joules, 21,600 BPH frequency, and the power reserve is right around 42 hours. So almost the exact same specs as your Seiko 7S26 movement, except this 8215 caliber has a hand winding function, which is pretty neat. You can either wind it automatically, which is pretty noisy. I don't know if you can hear it, or you can also hand wind it with this crown here. But unfortunately, it doesn't have hacking features, so you can't set the time as accurately as you'd wish, but it's not that bad for this price point. Also, one thing I hear sometimes on the internet is that the 8215 sometimes has a jerky second hand. Some say that sometimes it skips beat or it jumps around the place. Never happened to me thus far, so I cannot say that this is a common problem, but I've definitely heard about this more than once. So maybe yours might have this issue. So as I said, it is exposed here through the exhibition case back. It's not the most beautiful movement out there at all. It's pretty basic, pretty bare bones looking. But the reason why Timex uses an exhibition window is definitely because, as I said, almost everything else they produce is quartz movement equipped. So it's pretty nice to show a mechanical movement for a Timex watch. So that's the only reason there's an exhibition window here. As you can see here, stainless steel. So this goes for the rest of the case back as well as the case itself. It's all made of 316L stainless steel. And then it has 30 meters of water resistance. So it can withstand a few splashes here and there. Let's say if you're washing the dishes, but you cannot take this watch for a swim, nor do I recommend showering with it. It's a dress watch, guys, so as long as it's possible, do not take this watch underwater. So that's it pretty much for the specs. Now I want to talk about the styling a little bit, because this is definitely the main reason why you will get this Marlin Snoopy edition. The styling is absolutely gorgeous. As you can see here, you get a white sunburst dial, which reflects quite a lot of light. I love to wear this watch on a sunny day because it's very iridescent. As you can see, it goes from white to silver to gray, etc. So superb dial. Also, the indices are very thin. They're applied, as you can see on the dial. Same thing for the sword hands. They're also very thin, very slim. So it's a pretty minimalist styling. Even the Timex logo here is extremely small. So super classy, minimalist dress watch. Except, of course, for the Snoopy drawing here, which is the centerpiece of the dial. And it's the main reason why I got this watch. It comes from the 1965 Flying Ace comic. So a bit of a throwback here. As you probably know, the first Timex Marlin was sold during the 1960s, so it's kind of two things from the same era, which is pretty nice. And then you also get an SB Foot Tanning Company leather strap. It is black. This is a pretty good leather strap for the price. It has a nice feel to it. It is pretty comfortable, so nothing bad to say against this SB Foot Tanning leather strap. As you can see here, you have some small quick change, I don't know how to call them, quick change mechanism, if you will. So you can swap out the bracelet or the leather band pretty easily. But it's not something that I plan to do because, as I said, it looks great, very comfortable. So I think I will keep this one on the original strap. Now, it is only available in a white color because this is what looks best with the Snoopy drawings. So I can't get it with a black dial or anything like that, which is no big deal at all to me because I love white dials for my dress watches. So I'm perfectly fine with this. So there's really nothing much more to say about this watch, guys. As I said, if you're a big Snoopy fan or if you like Timex mechanical watches, by all means get this one. But if you're strictly looking for a best bang for your buck watch, this is not it at all. As I said, the movement can be found in much cheaper watches. The acrylic crystal is not an expensive component at all. So buy it if you love the styling, if you like this little flying ace Snoopy drawing on the dial. But if you're not that into it, then I recommend skipping this watch because it is quite expensive for what it actually is. So thanks for watching today's video, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.